today we're expecting that Judge Philip Lobsher will hand down his judgment in Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's application for leave to appeal. You remember that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana first brought an application to the court wanting the Free State High Court to help her declare her arrest in Tanzania unlawful. This was after she was brought back to the country in the Thabo Bester Saga. She decided to suspend her bail application in the magistrate's court to approach the Free State High Court for this matter. But I have here with me legal analyst Thabo Molete, who I'd like to bring into the conversation regarding what is expected to happen here today. Dr. Molete, of course, the judge today handing over his verdict in this appeal. What do you think is going to happen today?
Basically, what's going to happen today is that the judge is going to hand down the judgment. Whether or not it's in favor of the applicant, it stands to be determined. But let's go back a little. Remember that the case of Dr. Magudumana is that her arrest in Tanzania was unlawful. Section 2 of the Constitution states very clearly, unequivocally, that any conduct that is inconsistent with the Constitution must be declared invalid. Now, the case of Dr. Magudumana on Friday or Thursday was that her arrest was unlawful, and counsel has been saying often that the only way that we can determine as to whether that arrest was lawful or not, it's when we gauge it against the Constitution. And we said the Constitution is unequivocal to say that any act, any conduct that is inconsistent with the Constitution must be declared invalid. But again, the object of this application is that High Court give us permission to go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, because we are of the view that if we can go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court of Appeal would then say, in no uncertain terms, that her arrest is unlawful. But the judge, as we said last time, he said that no, your arrest, it was a disguised extradition, but at the same time, your application fails. So they're saying, counsel of Dr. Magudumana, they're saying that there is a gray area there. So kindly allow us to go to the Supreme Court of Appeal so that the Supreme Court of Appeal can clarify the position.
The issue of consent here has been raised quite a lot. The fact that the judge, in fact, dismissed Dr. Magudumana's application on the basis that she consented, and her legal representatives are saying this consent cannot even be considered because the act itself was an illegality. Do you think that the judge is going to consider what counsel said in conjunction with what the legal representative for the South African Police Service said about this matter not having any prospects of success in the Supreme Court of Appeal?
In fact, that's where we add to say, can the consent of an individual regularize or can it ratify an unlawful conduct? It stands to reason. It's not contested that the Judge Lobster, said that her arrest was a disguised extradition. So there's something about it. The other thing that we need to state here is that the withdrawal of Department of Home Affairs, it's also giving us, a doubt as to whether that arrest has indeed happened lawfully or not. Because remember, Department of Home Affairs, they also had your cross appeal, meaning they were opposed initially to this appeal or to this application for leave to appeal. But then subsequently they withdrew. So that stands to say to us, probably NPAS and your Department of Home Affairs, they were not singing from the same hymn book. They were not on the same equal or on the same wavelength. So that in itself creates a doubt which the Constitutional Court or the Supreme Court of Appeal must clarify. But coming back to your question, we are saying, and this is our considered view, that a conduct which is unlawful cannot be regularized or cannot be normalized or cannot be ratified, whereas some institution or the state has, conducted or has done an unlawful conduct. So that has to be determined by the Supreme Court of Appeal.
Mm-hmm. Should the judge today grant Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's application for leave to appeal, what happens next?
If the judge grants the application today, then the legal team would then head to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court of Appeal will have to make a determination whether the arrest in Tanzania was lawful or not. If it was unlawful, then it would mean that Dr. Magudumana must be released because her arrest was unlawful, so she must be released. As to what will happen after her release, it's a story for another day.
In her court papers, she actually also questions the charges that she's facing in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court, saying that when Tanzanian authorities handed her over to South African officials in Tanzania, charges were not on the table, and that is why Tanzanian authorities did not opt for an extradition. What will then happen? Will the charges then be brought, or will she also challenge? Do you anticipate that she might challenge those charges?
Let us go back to the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court. Dr. Magudumana was charged, or she's charged, and she then decided not to apply for bail. I think the strategy there is, I would not apply for bail because I do not understand why am I here. So this court, that is the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court, does not have jurisdiction, does not have any business to be arresting me. I am innocent. My only sin, my only problem was that I was illegal in Tanzania. So as to the charges and so on and stuff, she's saying, I'm not really interested. So Bloemfontein Magistrate Court, you don't have business, you don't have to charge me. Hence, I'm not applying for bail. So she's of the view that crux of the matter is that her arrest in Tanzania was unlawful. So if that pillar can fall, then it means, in my view, that we don't have a case against Dr. Magudumana.
That is Thabo Molete there, just unpacking for us the Dr. Magudumana saga. Of course, it is going to be interesting to see what happens should this application be granted today. And of course, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana also questioning her charges that she's facing in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. Is very interesting here what Thabo Molete is saying about if that pillar falls, then there's nothing to hold Dr. Magudumana. Naledi, it's back to you.
Yeah, Kamogelo, I think before we let you go, let's talk about whether or not we're able to see these proceedings as they take off today. Just how much of this are we able to access?
You will definitely be able to get the visuals today and the proceedings, Naledi, of what happens in the Free State High Court as Judge Philip Lobsher hands down his judgment. We don't know if he's going to read the entire judgment, but you will definitely be able to see what happens here today.